Committee meeting of Wednesday, August 28th, 2019. I'm Councilman Mike Bonin of the 11th District, the chair. I'm joined by my colleague Paul Koretz of the 5th District, and I anticipate Ms. Martinez of the 6th District will be with us before 2. Wow, that was like right on cue.
I think your anticipation is correct.
Good timing and great entrance. Before we start, I also would like, as a point of personal privilege, to wish a happy birthday to Mr. Joe Linton of Streets Blog Los Angeles, a regular attendee of these meetings and chronicler of what happens here. Happy birthday, Joe. Okay, so we have a lot of items that might otherwise go on consent, but there's a number of speaker cards from some folks. So we will start with those who have filled out cards on multiple items, and we will do the public comment at the start of the meeting. We will start with Mr. Herman and Mr. Spindler. You have 2 minutes for items on today's agenda. And
he started the fucking clock, nigger.
Mr. Herman, if you're interrupting me, that's an interruption of this meeting, and that is your first and only warning for today. So he will have 2 minutes for items on the agenda, followed by 1 minute for general public comment for items pertaining to transportation.
An excess of 22 feet in length or over 7 feet in height. Retaliatory discrimination under Prop HH case number 12CV00551 FMO PJWX. We'll take the fucking street later. We'll take the fucking street again. What nig has done anything right with our transportation and our housing on the fucking street, nigger? What have you done for me? This constitutional betterment prohibiting the parking of vehicles that are on access on our public streets that we, the taxpayers, pour? Fuck you. Now my general public comment. Well, in my brief case regarding Obama, fuck the nigger, he will have a 50 cal in the head soon. Yes, Herman posted it, but he did not shoot or say he'd shoot the nigger's country or county or city. Fucked. For another 4 years of Obama? Where's the Obamacare that I was promised? What nig has done anything right? The history of the black Sambos. Shoot the nig. Shooting the nig's car. Because under First Amendment United States versus Bagdasarian number 095529-2011, you ain't taking my fucking car. You ain't taking my fucking bus. You ain't taking my fucking right to sleep in a car, motherfucker. Because this is my country. This is the United States of America. A better constitution. Let's save America. Send the white Oreo Jew back to fucking Israel with her head.
Is up, Mr. Herman. Before I call up the next speaker, there's a number of people here in the audience who have not been to this committee before and may not have been to a public hearing here in the city of Los Angeles. I would like to apologize for some of the comments that you have heard and which you are likely about to hear. As a result of a number of different court decisions over the years, the city of Los Angeles is required to tolerate as protected speech a number of the offensive comments and hate speech that you hear at these meetings. This body would like to disassociate itself from it and condemn the comments we've heard. But it is something that we have to endure at this meeting, at the full City Council, at Metro, and our colleagues at the Board of Supervisors have to endure it as well. I know it may sound shocking to some of you. If you're a city staffer, unfortunately, while it's offensive, it's no longer all that shocking because it's become a regular thing here. With that, we have another speaker, Mr. Spindler, followed by Corey Schmidt.
Says that 2 minutes nigger and the items. Yes. So, let's see. Number 2, the mayor has appointed this fucking cunt, Sheila T. Jada, to this fucking transportation nigger commission. I say no, no, no. And then we got ourselves number 3, Jesse, this fucking cunt, to the Border Taxi Commissioner. That's right. It's all because of Nuri, another fucking cunt. And then we get ourselves parking fucking vehicles along the fucking cunt-driven streets of CD1 and CD4, CD12. You motherfucking lying niggas all said that I could have my under 7 feet and over 22 feet long fucking bus to live in. You lied to me, nigga. You lied. If I had a smaller bus, I could stick it right up your ass. But unfortunately, I don't. So I can't, and I won't because I can't, you fucking bitch. And then, number 9, I wanted to park my RV in CD5 with the Jew motherfuckers, and they said no. And then CD6, I go to that cunt Nuri with my goddamn RV, and she said I can't go. So next I drove at the fucking Canoga Park at number 11, and again, the Mike Bonin, the Jew that married the nigger because he could not get himself a Jew bitch to suck his cock, and I had to move it to CD11. The same thing happens over and over again. White niggas being treated like Jew niggas just because I'm homeless. Fuck the city. And now, for the illustrious generalized public comment.
Which needs to pertain
You
to
dirty
transportation-related
fucking niggas that have transportation issues. You block our streets and treat us like niggas. You goddamn don't let us park our RVs and you treat us like niggas. And then you take and you slow the traffic down with construction projects and you treat us like niggas. I'll tell you who the real nigga is. It's these studio motherfuckers that are down in the jewelry district blocking every goddamn fucking street. So I gotta wait 15 minutes to turn onto the 101 to go up to Pasadena so I can visit Mayor Terry Contour Lake. That's right. I can't leave. I can't come back. And I got nothing but Jews and nigger motherfuckers here depriving me of my civil rights. Fuck you.
Thank you. Your time is up. Is there a Corey Schmidt? Please come forward. You have 2 minutes for multiple items on the agenda, followed by 1 minute for general comment.
Okay. Corey Schmidt, for the record, just want to open, as I usually do, just letting the public and anybody else listening know that all speech under the First Amendment is protected. So although they're walking a very thin line over here, they are within their constitutional right to say whatever they need to say, which is also, I believe, they are on the very far right of the spectrum. And I believe that that's a good tool to show you all that you are able to fit within that spectrum to say whatever it is that you do need to say. So you don't have to go as far as they do, but you know it allows you to feel that you are able to say what you need to say, even if it goes against the status quo. So on that note, you know, just saying you don't need to apologize. It's their First Amendment right, but you know, let's keep it classy. All right, so number 4 to 11 in regards to RV parking, I was talking about that, I'm kind of for this. I like the idea of being able to park that there, but I know that people come from all over the country and they just drive here and decide that they're going to live in an RV. So I believe that should be restricted a little bit. Preferential parking, parking in this city is like, it's terrible. So I mean, I understand that, but at the same time, I don't know where we're going to park, so it's something we should kind of dive into a little bit. 15 for Vision Zero, I'm into that. Utilization, next-gen buses, Sherman Way streetscapes. No for sale signs in cars. I heard someone saying something about possible citywide ban on that. Not really for that, because it's like, it's a sign, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it does take up space.
Thank you.
So, yeah. And so for public comment to continue a little bit, repairing the bicycle pavement, I'm for that. And street reconstruction, I'm also for that. So I believe that's everything. Thank you.
Mr. Schmidt. Ms. Ramirez.
Hi, good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, first let me start with a congratulatory to Councilman Mike Bonin, Chair, and Council female Nori Martinez. She is a beautiful Latina, which I've always been proud of, and Councilmember Paul Koretz. I want to thank you because we have Dash that runs now after hours. And I thank you. We struggled with that one for a while, and I'm delighted that we have that, not only for myself, even though I can't get on with my 2 shopping carts, if you know what I mean. I really have to kind of bribe them and say, would you let me on? Come on, it's the last bus. Come on, let me on with these two shopping carts. And eventually some of them do, not all of them. But I want you to know it helps the tourists. So I want to thank you because we must welcome tourists with love, or travelers. We must welcome them with love, class, civility, and a lot of class, man. America's about class. Just look at Donald Trump and Melania. They're so beautiful. They're so elegant and so classy. Oh, don't look so dead, Bonin. I'm congratulating you, for God's sakes. Anyway, having said that, I also want to tell you that, ladies and gentlemen, taxi cab companies suck, evidently because I'm being gang-stalked. Every time I call a cab company, they do not come. I wait 12 hours for cab companies to send me a cab, 12 hours, or they just don't show up. Never because I don't pay. I pay and give good tips, but they don't show up. That's been my problem for the last 5-8 years with taxi cab companies. I'm planning to take action against all of them. They're assholes, and they run with the gangs. They run with the gangs. So goddamn you, taxi cab companies. I am going to take legal action. And ladies and gentlemen, we need better improvement, public safety on the trains and buses. We need public safety, and we need improvement in cleaning. We need to carry our Lysol cans, disinfect all the seats, the surfaces, the rails, because they're contaminated. Many homeless people are full of mites, and they are contaminated with scabies, MRSA, bed bugs, and staph. And I don't want people to catch it. It's deadly and contagious. God bless Donald Trump and God bless America. We love you. Thank you.
Mr. Sachs. You have 2 minutes for the cards you filled out comment on, and then a minute for general public comment.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. For the record, Arnold Sachs. Good afternoon. I believe I filled out cards for 21 and 22, which are Vision Zero and Complete Streets. I'm not sure if somebody really understands what that's about. Have you noticed that when they put those bullards in for the bike lanes and all that stuff, they actually block people from parking on those at meters? So essentially, they've taken away meter parking that is revenue for the city to put bullards in for bikes that very few people actually use in like downtown Los Angeles. There's areas by like Main and Spring over by 5th and 6th Street that they have those bullards in for this bike lane, but people actually park there and they don't use the curb parking with the meters. So essentially, Vision Zero, they missed that one by a mile. Just a little bit outside, I think Bob Euchre said. So in the complete streets, that's looking at the complete street. It's not just looking at, well, we'll put these in. By the way, I like the idea of putting the bus stops out in the street so that the homeless people can sleep on the sidewalks and the people who want to wait for the bus won't be interfered with by having to step over homeless people. Now that's good vision, if you want to call it that. I'm not sure I would. But again, that's complete streets. And by the way, a few years ago when you thought about a sales tax for the budget, I believe a couple of councilmen came in and said they have a street report that was done back in the late 90s, grading all the streets in the city. And then you had America Fast Forward, and there was nothing shovel-ready except all the crap that came out of the councils that was sitting then. So where are we with that report on the street status, or the status of the streets that was presented in City Council, I don't remember, 5 years ago when they talked about a half-cent sales tax or a quarter-cent sales tax? Who knows? Public comment. Have anybody been on a dash bus? Has anybody ride the dash bus here? I mean, it's a really good service, but it needs to be redesigned. The seats in the front are very close to the aisle. And so there's a lot of veterans that use those dash buses, and if somebody sits in the front of those seats, then the veterans can't get by the aisle because it's too narrow. It's too narrow for people to actually walk by. And so it kind of somewhat defeats the purpose, and it makes them feel like second-class citizens. Maybe somebody ought to look into that. And along those lines, I understand that Mayor Garcetti is crowing about autonomous bus drivers and the move for Dash to become autonomous bus drivers. So what happens to the drivers then? Where do they go? Do they become autonomous or do they become unemployed? Is there a program in place for the city to do something with those autonomous bus drivers? Maybe somebody ought to look into that too. Thank you.
Dax, is there an Aussie D?
Is that my public address?
Your time is up.
2 minutes. Oh, that was my public comment.
You're done today. Is there an Aussie D? Okay, great. So those are marked. There are two folks here from Brentwood Glen who've also filled out a general public comment card. Bob Blue and Ziggy Cruz, did you want to, in addition to item 14, were you interested in doing another minute on general transportation-related items that are not on the agenda?
We're new to this, so I have no idea how this works. I was a little kind of
Okay.
caught up. So how can you explain the system since it changed?
Are you just here on item 14?
No, we're here on public general comment and item 14, but it's not related.
Separate issue.
Separate
Okay, all right. So if the two
I can do general public
if the two you want to come up now and do give a minute for general public comment, has to be about transportation-related issues.
It will be.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Good afternoon. I'm Ziggy Cruz, and I'm here to talk to you about a parking restriction sign that came up on Church Lane, Elderwood Street, as well as Farland. It basically popped up overnight. No member in the community was made aware of this. This is a church request. It's the village church in Brentwood, or Westwood, I guess they call it. And this church just requested we want limited parking in front because we are not having enough parking for ourselves. And LODOT and Mr. Bonin's office said, okay, let's just do that. There was no outreach done to the community. Restrictions are okay if it's regular hours. This is from 8 a.m. until midnight, 7 days a week, claiming that they need this parking for the church services. The church doesn't function during the day. They have evening things and afternoon meetings, maybe, and they are running a daycare center for which they gave up free willingly their parking lot. So we would like the council office at some time to contact us. We have reached out to the council office. We have reached out to the LODOT. I've been pushed around from one place to the next,
Okay.
basically being told,
Okay, time is up
Yeah.
on that matter. I'll have my staff follow up with you on it.
please do. Thank you.
Mr. Blue? This is your general public comment.
Thank you. Yes, we're both your constituents. It's basically the issue of the church. This is a public benefit, right? Public taxpayer paid for streets, and actually sometimes they're even used as a de facto park and ride, which encourages public transportation. We have 5 bus stops along the ride, so it's a really positive thing, and our streets are never short of parking. So there's an abundance of parking, but it does seem very unfair that this process took place without any notification. Both residents on Farland and also Elderwood have complained about it. Our neighbor is a retired LAPD officer, and we have also a DA behind us too, actually current. But the concern we have is we just want openness and transparency. This church operates a daycare center without a permit. That's child welfare issues. They're in code violation if you check with the planning department. So I don't know why we're giving them preferential treatment. Also, we need to look out for child welfare, or, public welfare as well. So I would ask that the council office get involved in that, and we appreciate your help.
Thank you very much. Okay, and I have one more general public comment. I don't think it's actually a real person. Is there an Ayatollah N? Didn't think so. Okay, so general public comment is closed. There we go. Okay, and I am going to recommend for consent approval items 2 through 9, items 11 and 12, and items 15 through 18. Is there any objection?
For approval.
Okay. And there are no public speakers on those items, yes?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right, so without objection, those items are deemed approved. That will bring us to, oh, was there a Teresa Cameron here? Okay. Did I call item 10 special, or did I do consent on that?
You call it special.
I did, okay. All right, so we'll do item number 10. If the clerk could read it, or the CLA could read it into the record, and then we'll do comment.
Item number 10. Item number 10 is a Martinez Price resolution relative to prohibiting the parking of oversized vehicles along DeSellis Place between Galt Street and Sherman Way, Galt Street between DeSellis Place and Gerald Avenue, and Gerald Avenue between the cul-de-sacs to the north and south of Galt Street.
Please go ahead.
Thank you. I live on DeSellis Place, and gradually we've seen our quality of life go down and down. We have a horrible problem with RVs parking at the top of our street. It's been deemed that they're allowed to because they consider that commercial property, but it also butts into our neighborhood. So we have a lot of elderly people who can't walk their dogs anymore on our street because the sidewalk is full of bicycles, I guess, that they're repairing. They also have large dogs that they let run loose, and they leave mounds of trash. Officer Hugo Fuentes has been helping us with this, but he suggested to us that we get a petition to limit the size and the time that these vehicles can park on our street. So that's why my neighbor and I went around to every single business that was in our area and got signatures. Not a single one said no. The only one that we couldn't get was the Food for Less because they said it was corporate and they weren't allowed. So,
thank you very much.
Thank
you. All right, this item is in CD6. I assume you move approval, Ms. Martinez? So moved. Without objection, that item is approved. That brings us to item number 13.
Item number 13 is a categorical exemption and DOT report relative to expanding preferential parking district number 51 in the Valley Vista neighborhood of Studio City.
Okay, we have one comment from Daryl Alexander. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm Daryl Alexander. I live in Studio City on Valley Vista Boulevard, and we've been there, my husband and I, for 18 years. When we moved in, it was a lovely neighborhood. There was parking on the street, and then all of a sudden, a gazillion businesses moved in along Ventura Boulevard, nail salons, restaurants, et cetera, et cetera. And it started to become a disaster. There's no parking ever in front of our house. We enlarged our driveway to accommodate parking for our housekeeper and on garbage day, sometimes we have to put the cans out in front of the street because there's no place to put the cans. And 2-hour parking would allow people to go to a restaurant on the boulevard. It would allow us to have a neighborhood where friends could come over and park, and Uber could come and pick up somebody along the curb in front of the house. So we've been working on this for years, and I hope that we can be annexed now.
Thank you very much. Okay. Council District Number 2 is asking for approval of this item, so without objection, item 13 will be approved. That brings us to item number 14.
Item number 14 is a categorical exemption and DOT report relative to establishing preferential parking district number 292 in the Brentwood Glen neighborhood.
Okay, we have a number of public comment cards on this one. We will start with Norman Beal, followed by Ziggy Cruz and Bob Blue. You can all come up at the same time.
How much time do I get?
1 minute.
I get 3 minutes?
No, it's everybody gets 1 minute. If someone has filled out cards for multiple items, some of those speakers that you saw before filled out 23 cards. The max we give for multiple items is 2 minutes. So everybody gets 1 minute for regular public comment.
Okay, I will try to make my 3 quick points. First, the memo you received from the general manager misquotes the rules and procedures. She has inserted the phrase on a minimum of 4 blocks into the requirement that 85% of parking spaces be occupied. The DOT counted 62% occupancy. That's 590 occupied spaces divided by a total of 957 parking spaces. The 85% requirement protects against the overuse of preferential parking. By changing the test and then cherry-picking a few of the shortest blocks scattered across the area, the DOT is attempting to circumvent the protection the City Council had put in place. The City Code requires that a change in the rules must be approved by the City Council. This requirement is not optional. You can't sit here and weigh the pros and cons of permit parking in Brentwood Glen. The law is the law. You are legally bound to reject this PPD.
Thank you very much. Sir?
All right. One thing I wanted to point out, state law, trumps the local law, and the California Vehicle Code does require reasonableness. We felt the entire journey lacked a due process. Instead of having a fair and open hearing, we were told to go to the council office, but then it appears that the council office has given preference to one person, mainly Corey Solomon. Ms. Cahill had stated at the hearing that she doesn't take sides, and yet in an email obtained by Public Records Act request, she told Ms. Solomon she's on her side, she supports her, and then told another person that opposed it that she can't take sides. It's made up, despite, the preferential treatment, the hearsay was used both in your letter to the DOT to initiate this work. We're kind of cut out the process. And then the LA DOT also presented findings such as UCLA students are causing the problem without any objectiveness. That's all we ask for is, being scientific, objective, and investigating, and nothing was proven there. Thank you.
Hi. I ditto everything that was already said to save time, but also we submitted our objections in writing and sent it to all the council members here.
I got a copy of the 41-page document.
Yes, and I hope you had a chance to review this because it summarizes quite a bit of it, including the falsehoods in the staff report. The public relies on the staff report, so does the committee. And if the staff report is flawed and has inaccuracies in it, like citing guidelines that don't exist or don't apply, I believe there is time for a redo and resitting with the staff to make sure that the information provided to the public is correct. Because when we find it out, it should be very simple for you guys to find that out. Lastly, at the commission hearing, a potential conflict of interest was brought up by one of the commissioners that was raised during the meeting. And with the question, if she could ask the city attorney a question in private, the answer was clearly no. It's a public meeting, nothing is private. And she didn't elaborate. So there will be objections coming your way in regard to a potential conflict of interest because the public has a right to know who is the decision maker, who pushed one of these items towards the committee. So that basically sums it up because everything is in writing in front of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there Rebecca Burkhart? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hi, we've been trying to get this for a very long time, and Corey Solomon is just working on the behalf. She is the association, and she's working on the behalf of the people who live there. I live on Church Lane. I've had numerous cars there for over a month. These cars get dirty. The neighborhood looks bad, but on top of that, we've had 3 car alarms go off, one in the middle of the night. And we've had, one I think was a break-in and they stole the car because it peeled out afterwards. But so we've had to have 2 cars towed. And, you see 2 kids pull up. One kid hops out and hops in the other car and they drive off. We know it's UCLA. And we spoke, my husband works with someone who's in the works for their central plant, and he said, there's nowhere else for these people to park. Westwood Hills, every surrounding neighborhood has a PPD or is gated. And so we're the last bastion. And my time's up. Okay.
Thank you. Rachel Gatan? Did you fill out we can't do that. Everybody's limited to the same amount of time. We have to apply the rules equally or we get in trouble.
Hello, I've been a homeowner in Brentwood Glen for over 24 years, and I'm very disturbed by this overzealous effort by the so-called Brentwood Glen Association, and to implement preferential parking and the manner in which they've been obtaining the signatures, including my husband's signature, which we had to rescind, his second point was basically you need to know that the petition effort for Brentwood Glen was a flop. Only 2 regular-sized blocks signed up for permit parking. There are 36 homes on these blocks, 36 customers for permit. There are 6 block fragments scattered about. 2 have 2 homes, actually side of homes. 2 have 4 homes, and 5 homes are on a curvy strip where no one likes to park anyway, because these blocks are so short and surrounded by blocks that don't have permit parking.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there somebody named Tal?
Yes. Oh.
No. Good afternoon, sir.
Okay. Hi. PPD 292. I would like to thank the Permit Parking Division, especially Aaron Thompson, for all the work that they've done on this. I'll skip a big part because I only have a little time. This PPD process was done by the book from day one. Almost 50% of households in the Brentwood Glen signed on with an overwhelming majority of 85% on the submitted petitions. Parking study confirmed what residents have been complaining about for years, confirming that the petition street had a real scientifically proven parking issue. Please, don't let the interest of non-residents like hotel workers, UCLA and Archer School students dictate how we get to live in our neighborhood. Please approve PPD 292. I'd like to just show, these are the submitted petitions, hundreds of households. And this was other petitions that did not pass the 85%, were not submitted, with hundreds of more signatures. This has been a real issue, and thank you for...
Thank you, sir. Final speaker on this item is Morgan Goobin.
Thanks. I have a newfound appreciation for your guys' jobs after watching those first few speakers.
Thanks.
And we should also probably up the mental health budget after watching that as well. But anywho, I live on the corner of Montana and Beloit, which is essentially the epicenter of, I think, the parking dilemma in the neighborhood. Every morning during the week from 8:30 to 9:30, I can watch cars come, park, people walk off, get on scooters, get in Ubers. It's a constant problem. I just last week had another car towed on the corner of Beloit after it had been sitting there for almost a month. It's a real issue for us. I understand that some neighbors don't think it is for where they live, but I can tell you in certain parts of the neighborhood it's a real issue, and I think we're the last neighborhood that doesn't have it around our area, and I think we should have it. That's all I got.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so that concludes public comment on this. I'd like to thank everybody from the Glen who came down from both sides of the discussion, and thanks everybody for the public testimony, both verbal and written, that has been submitted to my office and to LADOT. As folks know, the PPD process is a community-driven one, and when a neighborhood is impacted by a public parking problem, it's the neighbors who step up and petition for relief, and this was generated from the neighborhood. And the city is glad to be able to provide that relief when the neighborhood meets what are objective criteria and demonstrates that there is public support. And DOT has done this by the books. My staff has looked into this. The criteria has been met. My understanding is that LADOT afforded opponents an opportunity to do a counter petition, and that counter petition failed. So I should note that inclusion in the PPD boundaries, and I just want to be clear on this, does not mean that signs get posted throughout the entire eligible area. I'll repeat that. It does not mean that signs get posted throughout the entire eligible area. That's just the area that is eligible for the restrictions and the posting. The parking restrictions are posted only on the blocks where neighbors on that block want the restriction. If anybody doesn't want their block restricted, they can talk to the neighbors on their block and they can stop the signs on there. But they don't have the opportunity to stop it on those blocks within the eligible area that do want it. So within the eligible area, the city will install the restrictions where the people on that block want it and will not on the place where the people on the block do not want it. So with that, and having heard the testimony, this item is in CD11. I would ask that we approve this item and would so move. Do I have a second? Okay, without objection, that is approved and will go forward to council. That then, I should note on item number 1, the general manager's report. The general manager is not here today, so we will be continuing, receiving and filing. Continued. Okay. All right. That brings us to item number 19. And thanks again for everybody who came down. That brings us to item number 19.
Item number 19 is a Buscaino-Rue motion requesting the city attorney to prepare and present an ordinance to prohibit the parking of vehicles displaying for sale signs or placards advertising the private sale of vehicles along East Anaheim Street between South Figueroa and Alameda Street, Island Avenue between West I and West Anaheim Streets, and North Lagoon Avenue between West Sanderson Street and PCH.
Great. This item requires a public hearing and findings, and I believe we have a representative from the council office here. Fernando? Good afternoon, Fernando.
Good afternoon. Honorable members of this committee, thank you for your time and consideration of item 19 today. My name is Fernando Navarrete. I am the Wilmington Field Deputy and representative for Councilman Joe Buscaino. As a representative that covers the area that we're discussing today, I agree wholeheartedly with the remarks stated in the letter submitted by Captain Greg McManus with the Harbor Community Police Station. At this point, we've exhausted all of our options, and posting the no vehicles for sale signs are really our last resort. The problem with vehicles for sale in this area have been ongoing for quite some time. They are impacting local residents and businesses who need the parking spots. I'll also note that in this area is a heavy trafficked area, as Anaheim is an arterial street for the community, where thousands of vehicles drive to and from the 110 freeway and east to the 710 freeway. We're noticing that new cars are placed every 2 weeks, if not sooner, which makes it difficult for our parking enforcement to cite. The vehicles are also contributing to blight and even crime levels in this area. We ask for your support and moving forward with this item. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Mr. City Attorney, does the evidence presented in the spoken and in the written evidence meet the requirements for the findings?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So without objection, item 19 is approved.
Very good.
That brings us to item number 20.
Item number 20 is a Bureau of Street Services and DOT joint report relative to inspecting the city's existing bicycle network and recommendations for repairing the network's pavement.
Hello. We have both departments here.
Yes. Good afternoon. I'm Greg Spotts, Assistant Director and Chief Sustainability Officer for Streets LA.
Carlos Rios, Capital Projects Principal Transportation Engineer with LA DOT.
We're here to present a jointly developed report in which we inspected the entire on-street bike lane network for the pavement condition. The top line message of the report can be found on Table 3 on page 4. If we had 4 dedicated crews repaving bike lanes 5 days a week, every week, it would take 4 to 6 years to repair the asphalt that's in poor or fair condition where there's bike lanes, and additional resources if we were to also repair the concrete streets that have bike lanes in distressed condition. I can provide a little bit of background on how we developed this report. In August of 2015, the Vision Zero Executive Directive was signed, and shortly after that, our two departments, Street Services and DOT, started collaborating on coming up with a way to proactively inspect, clean, and maintain the on-street bike lane network. We jointly sought some resources in several budget cycles, and we were finally successful in obtaining resources for fiscal year 17-18. And in July of 2017, Streets LA conducted our first proactive survey of the road surface condition of the on-street bike lane network. We identified more than 200 locations where there were small asphalt repairs, and we had those asphalt repairs made by the pothole program. And we also identified hundreds of locations where large asphalt repairs were needed, meaning we needed to mill out the pavement and put in new pavement. And at that point, we did not yet have resources to do that work. In fiscal year 17-18, we hired 6 positions that had been duly approved. There's a metro crew and a valley crew, each with 3 people. Each side of the hill has a supervisor who inspects, a motor sweeper operator who does special posted motor sweeping, and a truck operator who supports that motor sweeper operator by hauling away the debris. So the 6 people we have are not repair people, they're inspection and cleaning people. When they see small asphalt repairs, we promptly have those filled by the pothole program, but there's many large asphalt repairs and large concrete repairs that are needed. We were asked in a different council file, jointly, these two departments, to come back with a comprehensive survey of that work that's needed. And this report is based on a survey that was conducted in 2018, in which we looked at every single one of the 5,502 segments, city blocks that have asphalt or concrete bike lanes. And the results of that survey are on Table 2. 45% of the bikeways have pavement that's in good condition, 35% in fair condition, 16% are asphalt streets where the pavement in the bike lane is in poor condition, and 4% are concrete streets that are in poor condition. And then Table 3, as I referenced earlier, shows various scenarios for how we could eliminate this maintenance backlog over time if we had dedicated crews doing this work. I do want to add that subsequent to production of this report, we did a little additional research to find out how many streets that have bike lanes on them get resurfaced every year as part of our regular resurfacing program. And that averages about 20 centerline miles a year. So that means about 5 or 6% of the on-street bike lane network is resurfaced every year as part of the regular resurfacing program. That would be about a 15 or 16-year cycle, and we only expect the arterial streets paving to last about 15 or 16 years. So the current resurfacing program keeps up preventing additional deterioration, but it's not large enough to actually address the backlog of maintenance that's needed.
Anything to add?
No, I just want to.
Not, it's okay.
Just want to thank the efforts that Real Street Service or Streets LA did to help us conduct this effort.
Okay, Ms. Martinez has some questions.
I have a couple of questions. So what efforts have you made to incorporate some of these repairs that you talk about? At a minimum, the poor condition repairs that need to be made. How have you incorporated that into this year's work plan?
So I think this is the first fiscal year where we have bike lanes as one of the many criteria on what streets to select. So there's the hope that that number that will be resurfaced will be somewhat increased, but we do believe that, you know, a dedicated force is needed to address this multi-year backlog that's
So you
developed.
are prioritizing streets with bike lanes in the future of your work program?
Among many other things that are also priorities, yes.
And my last question, Mr. Chair, is, so given the rainy season that we had in the winter and spring of last year and this year, how is the Bureau going to, have you done an assessment on what that backlog looks like for some of these repairs in the future?
So the rainy season, I
We
think
don't
that
have them often, but we did have rain this year, thank goodness.
I think the rainy season produces potholes that we can fix with the pothole program, but the pavement distress that's the large repairs on these bike lanes is the result of worn out pavement from heavy trucks and buses. And that's where it needs to be fully milled out. Sometimes a whole block, 10 feet of a whole block at the curb lane needs to be taken out and new pavement put in.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for the work on this. This is really important, and it's a matter of both being smart fiscally and adhering to policies that the city has been adopting for nearly 10 years now. Since the bike plan was approved in, I guess it was 2010, and a couple years ago, Mobility Plan 2035, the council has kept adopting policies to prioritize bike facilities for pavement repair. And the main reason for that, as we all know, is that people on bicycles are far more vulnerable to pavement conditions than people in automobiles. And it's very easy to get thrown off a bike and to get seriously injured. And so we have a responsibility to take care of that. And we also know that we're getting a lot of injury claims, and we're paying out a lot of money for people on bicycles who have been injured as a result of poor pavement quality. So it makes good fiscal sense. So I like the recommendations we've seen in the report and from the committee. I just want to make sure we're a little bit more robust about this. We need to keep making the short-term fixes with dedicated funding and crews for large asphalt repair. But I'd like us to look a little deeper under the couch cushions into our special funds to see what funding might be available to do a little bit more. SB1 and SPRF revenues are still stabilizing, so there might be an opportunity there to allocate any of the surplus if it exists. Let's look. And we also need to address in BSS's regular work program over the long term. And as was called for in the bike plan, the mobility plan, we need to be prioritizing bike facilities as just part of our normal work planning and routine. And I understand we'll hear a little bit about that in the next item on the agenda on how we can implement that. So my recommendation would be to approve the item as amended by the Public Works and Gang Reduction Committee on April 17, 2019, to instruct Bureau of Street Services to include bicycle facilities as a prioritization criteria for the Pavement Preservation Program, Concrete Streets Program, Failed Street Reconstruction Program, and Street Sweeping Program, and to instruct the CAO to report back with funding options for large asphalt repair, including but not limited to gas tax, SB1, and SDRF. So without objection, that is the direction of the committee. Thank you both. Thanks to LADOT and Street Services. Thank you, Adele, for being here. You're doing great things at the department, and I love the partnership that Street Services and DOT are putting together. Okay, that closes item 20, and we will move to item 21.
Item 21 is the Street Services Report relative to fiscal year 2019-20 Failed Street Reconstruction Program.
Good afternoon, John Saponi, Streets LA.
It's a busy day on the phones over here.
Right. So here to provide a brief report on the selection of this failed street and our failed street program, reconstruction program. PowerPoint presentation
Please.
we provided. Okay. So our failed streets program began with a budget allocated for $12.8 million adopted this fiscal year. Our allocations are divided evenly among all 15 council districts. It's approximately about $854,000 per district, and our deployment started July 1st. The next slide shows you how the process is done. We start with the budget. We then use our micropaver system that actually pulls the locations that qualify for this program, which is a PCI of 40 and below. After checking the streets that are selected and vetting them through our utilities to ensure that there's no holds or possible conflicts, it then goes out to our field superintendents who field inspect and further validate the data that these streets do qualify for the program. After which we'll meet with council offices to show them our selected streets and provide any recommendations or accept any recommendations provided. We will then send the work program out to the agencies to let everybody know what the streets we're going to be doing. The job will be completed, and the process begins with the project identified and completed in the system. The next slide shows our data acquisition van that actually surveys the streets that helps us develop the PCI rating. So once we get the age of the street, and it also identifies other aspects such as distress and the distress with severity and distress type, it then goes to see what streets qualify. The example here shows that after we do that, it's comparing how all the different agencies such as water and power, sewer, other agencies that we compare to, do we kind of like overlay to see what streets finally qualify. On top of that, though, as part of the selection, we try to do as part of our multi-year program as a grid approach. So it's not only identifying the streets that are in failed conditions, actual streets that may require slurry seal, as well as regular resurfacing, so that we can capture all the streets in a grid, and it's more efficient for us to do that. Coordination with LADOT, as well as the elements of their bike lane program, are also included in this selection. And coordination with the Complete Streets program to ensure we're not doing streets that may have been selected for that program. We also include stakeholder input. On the next slide, it's basically we call our street pulse, which is basically taking our micropaver information, or based on the PCI, any 311 request, top pothole requests, basically, our bike lane, and as well as the top litigation payout. These streets then are targeted to see if we can qualify them for resurfacing, barring any conflicts. So the grid selection benefits is the mobilization and demobilization, future maintenance and future maintenance techniques to the program, such as if we resurface, we can now slurry seal in a more generalization versus hodgepodging back and forth of the streets of maybe finger streets that may have not been caught in the past. It improves customer service, and it also has less impact to the neighborhood, as well as improves our coordination with other departments. The next slide basically shows the effects of a full reconstruction, where it shows the structure failed. This program is full reconstruction, so it's showing you that it does remove not only the sub base but also the road base as well as the asphalt section. The next is the slide shows the amount of streets that were surveyed, or I should say the query that showed in May of the streets that qualify for this program. And that's the analysis data that we took out to our survey, identifying through our grid program and the other items mentioned. And our last slide shows that how what a grid selection based on the previous years as well as future years can go identifying the different aspects of how a street qualifies, as well as the bike path or bike lanes, sharrows, etc. And that concludes the basic report.
Thank you. Ms. Martinez, do you have any questions?
I do. So maybe you can walk me through this. So how would that work plan differ from the Complete Streets program in item number 22? It just appears that the majority of the streets listed in item 22 will not get done this fiscal year. So what's the difference? And has this project been fully funded?
So I know we coordinate with DOT on certain different data for they to validate for a complete street. I believe their criteria is a little different than ours, but what our objective is not to include a street that would be considered as a complete street.
Not to include a street that would be considered a complete street?
That's correct. So if they want to pick it for a complete street, then that program would be separate funding with the Vision Zero aspect.
Okay. I might have a follow-up question.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for the report.
You want to answer it?
Yeah, let me help answer some of the question.
Yep.
The complete, Adele Hashkhalil, the Director General Manager of Streets LA, the Complete Streets program is, the way I see it, is a top-down driven program where you specifically choose the streets that have the highest injury, and you are trying to integrate everything into it that is basically including bike lanes, sidewalks, and stormwater capture, all these things, including paving. I think what John was talking about is if it's already defined as a complete street, the paving for that will be actually integrated into that project once the project is defined. However, what we are doing here in Streets LA now is trying to integrate the ideas of complete streets in every project we do, regardless of these chosen projects you have. We want to be able to identify opportunities across the city, every project we're doing. So that's why you see, as part of our selection criteria, we're looking at the bike lanes, and we're looking at areas that flood. We're looking at all these things now, and it's going to evolve over time to have the culture of complete streets be a culture of every street we do, not just driven from this. So this is a good start. The Complete Street program is a great program, but I think what you want us to hear is to continue to have that be a part of every culture we do, everything we do.
Every community.
Exactly.
Every part
Yeah,
of the city.
every street, and that's what we're doing, and that's the effort, and it's already starting by integrating all these factors into our projects.
Thank you.
Okay. I have no questions for me. Again, just want to thank the department for the work. Looks like we're starting to move in a more strategic and long-range plan for street repair. That's good to see. I also understand that over the next 6 months, you're going to be working on a multi-year work plan that integrates various street repair and reconstruction programs so that we can... Yeah.
I just want to just add one more thing is, since we're on, a lot of people are listening to us, we have a new website, thanks to the encouragement of the councilwoman. It's working and it's good. But also what we have is, for the first time, information about the projects that are streets are being paved. So you can go online on our streetsla.org, and you can actually find out what streets are being paved and the month scheduled. And you can look back the last 5 years and find out what streets have been paved. And we're hoping over the next month or so, we'll have the next fiscal year already online, and then we're working through a stakeholder process that's going to start by end of September, Streets LA Advisory Council, to help inform us with the decisions. So that's also an open invitation to stakeholders to sign in, to be part of the process. And we're going to develop a 5-year plan that's going to be integrated, and we're excited about how we're doing it. And it's going to be a collaborative effort with all our partners and with the community, at every community. So thank you.
Okay. I haven't seen the Nielsen's myself, but I suspect the audience listening to this meeting is smaller than you think it is, Adele. But I think 90% of the audience of this meeting is in this room right now. But thank you. And great job on the website, and thank you, Ms. Martinez. So we'll receive and file the report, and we'll instruct the department in consultation with DOT to report back in 6 months with an update on the multi-year pavement plan and potential alignment with planned transportation projects. Thank you very much. And that brings us to the last item on our agenda, which is item 22.
Item 22 is a DOT and Bureaus of Engineering, Street Services, and Sanitation joint report relative to the second round of corridors and complete streets reconstruction / Vision Zero program projects.
Good afternoon, Julie Sauter, Deputy City Engineer with the Bureau of Engineering, and I'm here with our program partners this afternoon.
Adele Hoshkali, Director of Street Services.
And Dan Mitchell with the Department of Transportation.
So as it was mentioned earlier, this is a report for our next round for the Complete Streets program. And before I jump into that, I'd like to just give you a brief overview on where we are today with our first 6 of Complete Streets. As you know, we started that very quickly as the SB1 funding became available, and we quickly mobilized in delivering, or in the process of delivering, those first 6 streets. So our first, Roscoe Boulevard, was completed this past July. We're currently in construction with Temple Boulevard, and that will be done in September. And Venice Boulevard will be completed in this coming December. With the remaining 2 streets, Avalon and Reseda, those are in pre-design and design currently, and we will be reporting back to you as we move forward with those 2 projects. So here today we're talking about the next round of the Complete Streets program. You've heard a lot about it previously. In the 1920 budget, adopted budget, 12 streets were identified for the second round of the Complete Streets. What we are recommending here is really to get an authorization to proceed with the pre-design with the next 12 streets and really articulating what is part of a complete streets. I think you've heard a lot of discussions today about what is a complete street. We started off as a Reconstruction Vision Zero program, and have heard a lot of desires and feedback to embrace a more holistic approach to a complete street. So included in the report is defining exactly what we will be looking at as we proceed with the pre-design. We've broke it down into two major groups: items that we're considering are base scopes, which we recommend as a core mission of the Complete Street program, and some additional items that we hear from the community that would be of interest for us to look into as we move forward with the pre-design, but we would not move forward with the design until we come back and have a further developed design and planning and cost estimate. Along with this report, we also heard that we wanted to keep our momentum going, and so what we are also recommending is to move forward with 3 of the 12 streets: Culver Boulevard, La Brea Avenue, and Highland Avenue. And the justification for those 3 streets is that these are streets that have very well-recognized transportation improvements, and there is considerable amount of work that our partners, LADOT, has already proceeded. So we believe that these 3 streets will be good candidates for project readiness in our pre-design, and we would be able to move fairly quickly once we are done with the pre-design and come back to council with a recommendation. And lastly, as part of the report, we will be coming back with a prioritization of the remaining 9 streets based on feedback we have in pre-planning and advanced planning criteria. So with that, that's a brief overview on the report and our recommendations, and we're here to answer any detailed questions you may have on the program.
Thank you very much. Anybody else have anything before I defer to Ms. Martinez? Go ahead.
Okay. So can you tell me a little bit about how these corridors were selected? And the reason I was wondering this question is, I have some concerns about the corridor selected in my district because it's slated for major construction after 2022. So as you know, Van Nuys Boulevard is slated to be, it's also called the Metro East Valley Transit Corridor or light rail. And so while I agree that these major transit corridors, I agree with, making sure that this opportunity, that we have a great opportunity to complete streets approach on the boulevard, none of this can happen before 2022 because it's going to interrupt the light rail project. And so I just want to ensure that in my district we don't miss out on these opportunities because we have an investment project coming into the corridor. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Just to answer your first question, the projects that were selected for the 12 round were based on, really looking at the overarching mission, which is reconstruction and safety improvement, transportation improvement. So these streets were picked because there was an overlay. If you looked at our high injury network and you looked at the pavement condition, these streets were selected because they really represent an overlap of those 2 areas. As we move forward with the planning, advanced planning of the projects, that is exactly one of the considerations that we'll be looking at is other major capital investments in the area. And so in speaking, with staff, and then we will be reaching out to your office as well as our major partners, whether it be Metro or DWP or other development, to ensure that we have a well-coordinated program with that particular, or any of the corridors on the 12.
So what other opportunities can you identify along the corridor that can happen sooner while making sure you keep in mind that there is this project slated for future construction? Is there anything else other projects that you can identify that can take place before 2022?
We would need to look at the planning and what opportunities there are, but I believe the overall intent is to, holistically go and have the project at once and not really interrupt the project more than once. It's major capital programs we recognize does have an impact to the community, and that's one of the tenets is that we coordinate this so that we do not disrupt the community more than once.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're not missing out on an opportunity on this corridor. I have a question about recommendation number 5. So recommendation 5 instructs the various departments to report back on all other complete streets project in pre-design and design and construction. Is there a universe of projects that is not listed on this report? Or is this an instruction solely for the projects listed in attachment C?
What the intent, right.
The reason I'm asking this is because I want to ensure that the council is fully appraised of what this universe looks like.
So right now, we have the universe of the 6 streets that we currently have, and then the 12 streets that are recommended or that were approved in the budget. What our intent is to come up with a prioritization system and a pre-planning identification process so that we can apply this not only to the streets that we have now in construction and design, and not only our 12 streets, but for the program going forward. You know, we see this as a multi-year program for hopefully many, many years, as long as the SB1 is a viable source for us. And so the intent is for all future projects in the future cycles of the program.
Okay. And the last point I wanted to make, so the Energy Committee is taking a comprehensive look at our needs and priorities as it pertains to Measure W. And so although I like the concept, I like the concept of incorporating the green elements, but I want to request a friendly amendment, Mr. Chair, that we move the first batch of projects forward with regards to the second batch in the advanced planning, that the green infrastructure component specific to Measure W be held until we have a broader discussion later this month.
That's friendly.
Okay. I want it to be as friendly as possible. I know I sometimes struggle with that.
I've never had that perception.
Thank you, Mr. I'd like to get things done.
Thank you for that. No, that's absolutely fine and sensible. I'm glad to see this get moving. You know, we got to get past the broken way we've been doing things. One, because it's broken and it's just stupid to be, you know, looking at a street multiple times in various different ways and prolonging thing across a decade. And the other is, you know, it's sort of environmentally irresponsible to keep doing things the way we're doing. I mean, transportation in Los Angeles and California is the #1 contributor to greenhouse gas emissions, and it's the one element that is on the rise, and it's because, you know, our streets and the way we've designed them and treated them for years has been fossil fuel infrastructure, and they're really an asset, and they're an opportunity for positive change, and by coordinating and thinking forward, we can do that. This is a good step, you know, the pre-design of these 3 streets, and then after E&E has weighed in on the others moving forward on that second batch, that's a big deal. But this ain't the big lift. The big lift is after pre-design, and we get to what the cost is going to be, and that's going to be a heavy lift for those of us who support clean streets and complete streets and smart policy. And I think we got to act quick because time is running out. Time is running out on the earth, but time is also running out before we get hit by a recession. So we need to get the money out and the project started. So thank you for this. We will move forward with the report as amended in a very friendly manner by Ms. Martinez. Thank you very much. And I believe that ends the meeting, yes? That's it. Leaves nothing on the desk. Nothing. So I want to thank everybody for being here, as well as our enormous audience listening at home. And we are adjourned.